Hi, I here. This is a reading for the sign of Aries. We're going to do a Celtic cross spread with a huge tarot deck, and what we see on the bottom of the deck is going to represent what you don't see coming. And once we get an idea of what the general message of this reading is going to be, we're going to pull 3 cards from the shadow deck to see what's going on in your subconscious and to see if there are any further clarifications we might need. So let's just see what happens. Okay, so today we are tuning in to the sign of Aries. So if that is your sun, your moon, or your rising sign, or however else you choose today to identify with the sign of Aries, you can use that as a way of interpreting the messages that are coming through. And as always, if the details of these messages don't fit, do not try to force them. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if none of the details are seeming to fit your life or your situation, that's okay. You can check your other placements, or you can stick around and see what's going on in the world of other Aries. So what should we think about today? What things can we meditate upon? Are there any warnings that we need to see? Are there any things that perhaps we would benefit by not putting our energy into or trying to move away from? Or are there things that we would benefit from putting our energy into? Things that maybe could help our lives become a little easier, a little happier, or whatever it is that we're looking for. What messages can we receive today for those who are trying to tune in to the energy of the sign of Aries? What will our Celtic cross tell us today? So in the present moment, we have the 9 of Swords. A stressful card. Definitely a difficult place to start, but, just because we have a lot weighing on our minds, a lot of intense thoughts going through our head, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is a bad thing. It could be the jitters before something very exciting. It could be a difficult sort of breaking through the barrier of something that is really troubling you, that is, going to be some near success that we just haven't overcome yet. But when you're in the thick of things, definitely feels a little difficult trying to just sort of carry all that mental weight. We can sometimes be our own worst enemies, and just, let our thoughts really attack us from the inside out. So let's get a sense of what's going on here. Let's see what's crossing you. What's on your mind here? The Ace of Wands. So perhaps you are, getting ready to start something new. Getting ready to maybe implement some new idea. Maybe you're trying to move forward. Maybe you're actually literally moving somewhere. But whatever it is that you're getting ready to do, it feels like you're about to take action on something that's really weighing heavily on your mind. I feel like perhaps this is something that is a decision that you have been really weighing for a really long time. I think you know what it is that you're going to do. I think you know how you're going to handle the situation, but that having a plan does not make this any easier. And I feel like you have probably been trying to make your plan as tight as possible because you're worried about how difficult this really is going to be. As hard as you try, it's not necessarily going to make it any easier. That's going to come from really accepting emotionally, I think, what's happening here. I don't think your mind is going to help you outthink the difficulty of the situation. You know what you're going to do. I think you're ready to go, but you're going to really have to feel... You're just going to have to feel this one out. You're just going to have to bite the bullet, I think, and move forward with whatever this might be. But maybe I'm jumping the gun here. That's just the vibe I'm getting so far. So let's see what surrounds this. Yeah, you've been working on this. This has definitely been difficult. And there's a little bit of rest in the future. So I think I think whenever this situation plays out, it's gonna affect you in a way that's gonna take a little bit of time. This is not going to be let's rip the band-aid off and be done with it kind of situation. There's going to be some lingering stress here, but I think it's going to be better with the Four of Swords. It's a card of healing, not a card of persistent pain. But you definitely are going through some difficulties right now. You've been through some heavy ups and downs, and I honestly feel like with the Nine of Wands and this wand here, this is really the completion of something very heavy that has been really, really, really stressing you out. But again, moving forward with this, we're going to move into Four of Swords energy, and that's going to be a much more relaxing experience. Not necessarily pleasant immediately, but will long term be something that I think is going to lead to healing. Okay, underneath everything, we have a Seven of Pentacles. Yeah, you've been planning this. Strength at the top. Like I said, you're ready. You're definitely ready for this, even though you've got the jitters. Okay, we have a Knight of Wands. We have a Six of Pentacles. We have a Five of Pentacles. That makes sense. And a Ten of Wands at the end. 9 plus 1 is 10. This is the final stage of a very difficult process that you do not want to do, but you know has to happen. Whatever this is, it's something that is weighing heavily on you. You have tried to think out all the details as much as possible and tried to figure out, is there any alternative to this? Is there any way that we can avoid this? But no. Something has to be dealt with. It cannot be walked away from. It cannot be undone by just thinking through the scenarios. This is not something where we just need to put in the time and we're done with it. This has to happen. Okay, so what's going on here? So as I've said, I've already mentioned what I feel about what's going on here in the horizontal timeline. There is some situation that you have been a part of that has been very difficult. It has been rough on you. It has been something that has really tested you. You've survived through it. You've come out the other side victorious, but not unbruised. You've definitely received wounds along the way. The wounded warrior very much feels like the right energy to be entering into the situation with. And this Ace of Wands, as I said, is this final wand we need to end this situation. And you're very, very stressed out about finally putting to rest this situation. I'm surprised there's not a Ten of Swords here. I wonder if that's what's going to be on the bottom of this deck. I feel a Ten of Swords really. Like I said, there's a ripping a Band-Aid off that's happening in this situation here. But after that's done, there will be rest. As I said, with the Seven of Pentacles down here, I think you have been trying to think through how to get beyond this situation in the hopes that you can avoid the difficulty that you're going to have to go through. There's something that you're going to have to face up to. There's something that you're going to have to take a stand on, or something where you're going to have to come into the situation and say, this is what's happening. This is what I'm going to do. This is not ideal, but it's what has to happen. And you know this is what has to happen. You've known for some time that this is the way that this thing had to unfold. You just haven't wanted to deal with it. So a great deal of this has been you, I think, coming to terms with just psyching yourself up to finally get going with it. The Strength card up there at the top is you trying to figure out how to handle this situation with some level of both confidence and grace. You definitely are struggling with whatever this is that you're dealing with. You know that this is not going to be easy. And I think your natural inclination is to just say, all right, like I keep saying this metaphor of ripping the Band-Aid off. You really want to just rip it off and be done and walk away from it. And you know that that's the wrong way to proceed with this situation. You know that in order for this to go well, it needs to be handled maybe not necessarily delicately, but it needs to not be handled with just sheer force. I feel the vibe of like there's maybe a group of people that you're going to have to, break some news to. And I think the situation that you want to explain to them isn't even necessarily a situation that you like the outcome of. So because of your connection to whatever this is, you're ready to just say, I don't want this. I'm just going to burn my bridges and walk away. but you know that that's going to cause more harm than good, not just for you, but other people in this situation. So you know it needs to be handled, perhaps delicately is the right way to say it, but it needs to be handled with a little bit of thought in the sense that you can't just like run away and be done. So I really feel you want to just charge in and just like burn everything away and all of this anxiety that you're dealing with. I feel like that's probably the natural way that you deal with anxiety is by just either avoiding or going all in. And that's why in your current energy we have the Knight of Wands, just ready to blaze forward. But again, that blazing forward is going to cause damage, and it's both going to be damage to you and it's going to be damage to the people that you're interacting with in this situation. And I think there is a sense of connection with some, if not all, of the people that are involved in this scenario. Again, that's another reason why the Strength card is up there. Is you don't want to just show ferocity. You don't want to just come into this with aggression and assertiveness, because I think there are probably some connections that you don't want to even if they're not connections that will be maintained, are not connections that you want to strain and cause harm to. So you want to get a little bit of balance. You're trying to pull some of this Knight of Wands energy back, right? We've got the Wand and we've got the Knight of Wands. So there's really a heavy force of push, 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 push forward. And again, that Strength card is you trying to say, no, let's pump the brakes. Let's be a little careful here. In the environment, we have the Six of Pentacles. I think that this is representative of, as I said, I think there's some connections in this situation that you have some care for, and there's a certain, not even just a purely like emotional kind of care here. I feel like there's a sense of almost justice that you want to have unfold in some way. There's a scale here, right? It's about balancing, and it's about balancing in the material world. So it's not justice in the sense that this needs to be done because it's, this is karmic justice that needs to be paid. It's more like you feel that some of the parties in whatever this situation is are not getting a fair cut of what needs to happen here. Like this feels very much like some sort of work, or I mean it could be a family or a friendship type thing. But this feels to me like you're working with a group of people. You have gotten to a point where it's time to cut ties with those people. You want to just run away and be done with it, or charge forward and say, see you later, suckers. But that's not what you're going to do, because you know that if you do that, you're going to end up harming the people that you're leaving behind. So I think you're trying everything in your power to try and make this as smooth of a transition as possible, and hence the challenge up there is the 5. I mean, we have a 6 and a 5. So the challenge is taking a fair situation, sort of extracting yourself from that situation, and that's where that 6 loses one of those pentacles. And when that pentacle is lost, the remnants, that void that's left behind, causes difficulty. And you feel that difficulty, I believe. I feel like that is something that you either emotionally feel or you see, and mentally you're like, I can't let that be the case. That's not good. And so that's the challenge. Because it would be easier to just bail and leave this void and let that be what's going to happen. But instead of letting that happen, you're going to put all your effort into doing this as gracefully and generously as possible for the people that you think are getting the sort of short end of the stick here. I'm getting the vibe of like maybe quitting a job or switching to a different department or moving on to some new project and just leaving behind the remnants of what it was that you're connecting with. And again, rather than just completely extracting yourself, the 10 of Wands up there is the burden that you are going to carry that you don't have to carry. This is taking up an extra bit of work to make sure that the people who are left behind in this situation are not completely left behind. You want to help them as much as possible. You want to make sure that they're getting what they need so that this can be a positive experience for all parties involved. You know that's not going to be the case. That's why you have this anxiety because again, basically you're going to either have to take a little bit of extra burden on yourself to alleviate the burden of others, or you're going to end up walking away and have that burden be cast on those other people. And I think a lot of what I'm seeing here really emphasizes that that's not what you want to have unfold. Perhaps there are people here that you have invested in some way, that you have really put time and effort into working with, and you've gained some level of connection with them, in a sense that you are not going to want to just let them have to pick up all the wands that fall when you let go of all 10 of those wands. Like that person up there is going to be you carrying this a little bit further. That last little step here with the 9 of wands, getting it past that finish line so that then you can hand those off to someone else in a way that's going to be a little bit more smooth. And then, you're going to take more work than you have to, because you know it's going to help other people. And that's an admirable thing. That's not an easy thing to do. There's a certain amount of it's almost as if this is like a parting gift, you taking on this extra effort, rather than just kind of like I said, you're not going to just walk away and say see you later. So that's what I'm getting from all of this. Like I said, there's a little bit left to do. You're going to finish that final task, put this to rest, and that's going to help you get past this anxiety. The Four of Swords, like I said, there's going to be some lingering feelings here. I mean, that could be healing from the extra burden that you're picking up, or it could be that once the final tasks have been completed, once you've wrapped up all the things that you need to do, and it's finally time to leave, and it's it's like the last episode of a TV show, like, and you're getting ready to walk out the door, and it's like, all right, we're gonna lock the door and turn the lights off, and that's gonna affect you. That's gonna be something, I think, that's gonna weigh on you mentally. I think more mentally than emotionally, because I don't see any water energy here. So there's very much a sense of like push the feelings down, because this is difficult. And in place of all those feelings, we have sword and fire and earth energy. Lots of earth energy. This is a very practical situation happening here, and a lot of fire energy. Really bringing in your intensity as an Aries here, to try and push through the feelings is the vibe I'm getting here. But there's a gentleness with the Strength card. That's an important thing to remember about the Strength card, is the gentleness that's tied to it. So that's why even though you're not showing emotion here, it is in there. It is there to be felt, but it's something that you don't want to feel. So instead of feeling that, it's as if you, like I said, you want to give some sort of parting gift to those around you, and show those emotions in a way that is not, ooey gooey, kind of like I'm gonna miss you guys sort of energy. This is more, no, we're going to go through this situation in a very practical way, and the transaction that occurs through taking up these extra tasks that you didn't have to, that's going to be the sign of you showing that there's care here. So okay, so let's see what you don't see coming. I think I've made the message here fairly straightforward. King of Swords. Interesting. So I guess with the King of Swords, I mean, maybe you really are still conflicted about how you feel about this situation. You know what needs to be done. You're going to do what needs to be done. And I guess what you don't see coming is the final task of wrapping your head around everything. I think that perhaps, again, why there's no water energy here is that you're trying so hard to use your mind to overcome your feelings of how you connect with this situation. What you don't see coming is that at the very end, as this becomes the hardest thing, you finally have to like really close the door and close the book and finish that chapter. That's the final part of this story. How much that's going to affect you is going to take a great deal of mental energy if you really are going to try and push away from feeling this. But perhaps in all of that heavy air mental energy comes the realization of how you actually do feel about this. I get the vibe that you use your mind to process your feelings rather than just feeling them. This probably would be an easier situation to get through if you didn't do things that way, to be honest. Really, really trying to use your will and your mind to get yourself through a difficult emotional situation. But if that's the way you're going to do it, and what you don't see coming is you will be able to sort of wrap this up, but there is going to be a lingering sort of emotional energy that's bubbling under the hood. But you'll be able to wrap all this up. You'll be able to put a conclusion on this. You'll be able to really get your thoughts together and understand what it is that you've experienced here. You may not feel it yet, but you will understand it. And yeah, let's see what's in the shadow deck. Because I'm thinking here we're going to see where the water energy is really hiding here. Because with that King of Swords energy, you're going to get clarity, but I feel like you're really going you're going the hard route to make sure that you don't feel what it is that you're experiencing. I don't know that that's super healthy or advisable, but I think that's what you're going to do regardless. I don't see anything stopping you from what you're planning to do here other than trying to be graceful and calculated about it and not the strength card. I think is also a little bit of the pressure valve of all the fire and water. All this fire, I think, is probably boiling a lot of emotional energy that's trying to seep out, and the strength card is the closest thing I see to any of that water energy coming to the surface. Which, I mean, that means you're not going to have some intense, crazy outburst where you're just like, this is what's happening. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I think inside you're probably feeling I mean, that's why you have a Nine of Swords. If you're going to suppress that, it's going to feel really intense. But you don't want to admit that it feels really intense. Not even to yourself. That's what I think is happening here. Okay, so let's see what happens in the shadow deck. Let's get 3 cards to see what's going on in your subconscious and see if there's any other clarifications, repeats that we might see, reflections of your mind of what's going on externally. Okay, let's see what we get. We have a death card. Yeah, it's an ending. 5 of Swords and a 5 of Wands. No, just more chaos in your mind. Still no water, except for the death card. We have some Scorpio energy. Okay, yeah, no. So I think, again, I think you're using every ounce of strength and will that you have to keep the emotions as contained as possible. But what's interesting here is that you're using that energy that you're like compressing into those feelings that you're not letting out. And I feel like this is like all this pressure that's building inside of you. This is all this intense energy of like, I think there's some happiness. I think there's some anger. I think there's some sadness. There's like all these different feelings that rather than expressing them as feelings and just moving on from them, you're trying everything in your power to keep all of that contained in like a little ball. And you're using that ball as like a furnace to just sort of power you forward. It's like you're burning your emotions rather than feeling them. And I don't know that that's a healthy way to be processing these things. This is definitely something, that's why you need the 4 of Swords, the resting energy, because you're going to have to really, at some point, you're going to have to sit and reflect and feel all of this that's happening, but you're trying really hard to not do that. And in fact, you're trying to use all of this restless energy as a propellant to help you move forward through it, to get through this change, to get to this other side of this difficult situation. You're hoping, I think, that it's just going to go away once it's done. It won't. That's not the way emotions work. But you will be able to get through this situation, and once you're on the other side of it, perhaps the way these emotions sort of are interpreted by you are going to be a little bit different. You know, when you're in the middle of a situation and you feel these things versus when you look back on a situation and you feel those things, you still have to feel the things that you need to feel, but you have a little bit of a different perspective on it. And I think that might be why you're being so intense about wanting to not feel this, so that way once there's distance, then you can take the time to rest, reflect, and let this be what it's going to be. So the death transformation that I don't know that it's what will happen, but I think what you hope that will happen is that the intensity of what you're experiencing with all the Five of Wands energy, if you push hard enough with your mind, you'll be able to get through the situation, get some distance, and then look at it. And I mean, as long as you get through the process of looking at it at some point, that'll be positive. But you're carrying so much heaviness here. Just to I think there's some water energy that you really want to let out, but you won't. So let's see what we have on the other side here. The Knight of Wands. Yeah. You just want to go. You're just like, I don't have time for feelings. I just want to get this done. Which, fair enough. Just make sure that you take the time to feel those things when you need to feel them. So, all right, I think that's all I have to say about this message here. Not really getting a whole lot more other than, like I said, you're dealing with something heavy. You don't want to deal with it, but you know you have to deal with it. You know how you're gonna deal with it. You're trying to handle it with some level of grace, and you're just going to push forward as quickly through this as possible, but as calmly as possible. So that way, when you look back on this situation and you have some space from it, then you're hoping that you'll be able to get a little bit of a healthier response to all the things that are really affecting you. So heavy, very heavy, and very, very strong-willed. Such a strong resistance to feeling things, but I mean, the water's there, and the feelings aren't going to just go away. They're going to have to be transmuted at some point, but I think you just want... I think it also might be a sense of it's probably overwhelming to process these feelings and deal with the situation all at the same time. So push it down, swallow your feelings, get through the situation, and then process, so you have the bandwidth to handle all of it. But intense. Whoever this message is for is an intense person, so I mean, I don't want to say that this is the right way to handle it, but your intensity is impressive. I don't want to say that it's good, but it's impressive. So take that for what it's worth. But that's the message I'm getting for you today, Aries. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, as always, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments or feedback you'd like to leave, please drop that down in the comment section below. And if there's anyone that you know that might enjoy this or any of my other videos or benefit from them, please feel free to share them as you see fit. But that is all I have for you today, Aries. Again, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.